everyone. I hope this finds each of you so very well. I'm speaking to you from my studio in West Orange, New Jersey, and I could not be more delighted to have the pleasure of interviewing multi-dimensional healer Tobi Blake and her husband AJ. Tobi is a remarkably gifted intuitive channel, and AJ, who bears witness to the transformative experiences that unfold during her channeling, offers deeply insightful reflections of his own. Through profound spiritual and energetic healing, Tobi has triumphed over multiple sclerosis, chronic pain, depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation, embodying the power of inner work and resilience. Together, Tobi and AJ have 7 children. They sadly lost their 17-year-old Thomas to a fentanyl overdose in October 2023. Before that heartbreaking loss, Tobi was attuned to galactic beings, angels, dragons, and spirit allies. And following his passing, she embraced a sacred reconnection with Thomas, who now serves as her teacher, guide, and a bridge between dimensions. Thomas recently introduced Tobi to the Andromedan People, galactic beings who are master healers, and we'll be hearing more about them soon. Tobi works primarily out of her home, taking clients over Zoom for channeling from galactic and spirit guides, spiritual advising, life coaching, and energy healing. A visionary voice in the realm of conscious living, she created the YouTube series Take Your Medicine and co-hosts the refreshingly candid podcast No Dysfunction Here. I have to admit, I really love that. Alongside an unconventional dream team, her husband, her ex-husband, and his wife, blending humor, insight, and heart to reimagine what healthy relationships can look like. I'm looking forward to talking with Tobi and AJ, who will be speaking to us from Phoenix, Arizona, about Tobi's profound early connection to galactic beings, angels, dragons, and spirit allies, and hear how Tobi courageously overcame multiple sclerosis, chronic pain, depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation through deep spiritual and energetic healing. Tobi and AJ will also share the deeply personal story of their beloved son, Thomas, whose passing at age 17 marked a transformative chapter in Tobi's journey through grief, trauma, healing, and rebirth. We'll also explore the maternal wisdom of the Andromedan galactic mothers, the healing potential of meditation, the essence of conscious relationships, and more. This promises to be a soul-stirring, illuminating interview, one that will surely leave us inspired, awakened, and profoundly moved. I have to say that Tobi and AJ have already profoundly moved me, so I'm happy to share them with all of you. Hi there, and welcome to the Grief and Rebirth podcast. I'm your host, author and trauma survivor Irene Weinberg, here to encourage you wherever you are in your healing journey. In each episode, I chat with incredible grief and trauma specialists, healers, mediums, and celebs, as well as remarkable people who have inspiring healing stories to share. If you're looking for a podcast that's both uplifting and inspiring, you've found it. Let us help you find your joy in life. Hey, Tobi, AJ, a warm, heartfelt welcome to Grief and Rebirth podcast.
Thank you so much, Irene. It's really fun to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yes.
This is going to be a great interview, I know. So, Tobi, take us on your fascinating journey from complete skepticism, which I can relate to, about anything mystical and unseen, to a connection to galactic beings, angels, dragons, and spirit allies.
Okay, well, first, let me just say thank you so much, Irene. I feel very inspired by you and your courage and the work you are doing through your own grief. It's really cool, and you're a total badass, just like I was telling you before we started recording. So thank you so much for providing this platform for us to share on. I grew up in the Mormon religion.
Wow.
I was born and raised My parents were married in the Mormon temple, and we took our religion very seriously. Our family was not a traditional looking Mormon family, though. There was a lot of trauma in my childhood. I witnessed a lot of violence, and it was a lot of scary experiences where I naturally was disassociating and kind of leaving my body and going into higher realms a lot. But I didn't really realize what I was doing until later.
Well, it's amazing you were able to do that.
Yeah, just totally naturally.
My God, what a gift.
Jesus a lot in the clouds and in these realms of just like white and cloudiness. And then I have memories of coming back to my body and just standing in the kitchen while my mom's doing the dishes, and all of a sudden I'm back in my body, you know? And I think I did that a lot as a way of just protecting myself, maybe, I'm not sure. But my mom is really a huge part of my spiritual lineage. And
in what way, Tobi?
You know, she always had a very real connection to spirit and to God and to Jesus. And within Mormonism, she really taught us that we can receive personal revelation. The Mormon Church, I'm very thankful, really created this foundation of personal spirituality. And I took that very seriously. And because of all of the fragility and instability in my childhood, I think I relied on my relationship to the divine and to the Mormon religion profoundly. So I always had a connection to the spirit. It's just that as a Mormon, I saw God as a white man, you know, who lived on a planet called Kolob. Were you Mormon too?
No, but I just imagine I'm Jewish, and we also have the concept of the patriarchal.
Okay, totally. And so I kind of eventually, but I always had spiritual experiences. I had visions. 2 of my children I saw before they were born.
Fabulous.
But by the time I was 21, the trauma and a total lack of self-care. You know, I got married when I was barely 19 in the Mormon temple and had 5 babies before the age of 30.
Wow. Well, you were doing your job.
Yes. And I always felt like I wasn't enough and I wasn't doing good enough. And even though I was always a leader in the church, I had a scholarship to BYU. I was like the quintessential Mormon woman, and still I just never felt good enough or worthy enough. And eventually my spirituality led me out of the Mormon religion, which was a very terrifying time in my life and an extremely lonely time in my life. My family, bless their hearts, had no idea how to handle somebody they saw as, you know, a pillar of Mormonism just out of the blue saying,
all of a sudden you went rogue. What happened?
Yes, because I was studying in secret. I would only read the literature that was put out and endorsed by the church, but it was enough. I read the journals of Joseph Smith's wife and Brigham Young's wives, and it broke my heart to read those accounts of these young girls. I read about kind of the more hidden parts of the history. They're not hidden, but you got to go digging, you know? And so eventually I left that in 2011, and my oldest was, I believe, almost 8 years old at that time. And I had not met AJ yet. So he was on his own journey of kind of figuring out his relationship with Mormonism and leaving it. And he can tell his part of that if you want. But basically, dragons and galactic beings and light, anything that I am experiencing now, I had a complete aversion to my entire life. I never read a fantasy book. I never read anything mystical. I felt those things were evil. My mother was very big on no magic. Magic is evil. We weren't even allowed to watch like My Little Pony because ponies don't fly, you know? And so crystals and rocks and earth magic and anything like that was highly not something I was interested in.
I couldn't get her to watch Lord of the Rings. I tried so many times.
I couldn't do it. And he read the dragon books as a child and was very much into these fantasy things. And I thought, oh, that's so nerdy. That's so You know,
So you could see them as a kid, but you pushed them away? Is that?
no, I didn't see any dragons as a child. I did not feel connected in any way to dragons or galactic beings, just to the God that I felt like I was accustomed to, which was like a loving man energy, really. But that was just kind of the vision I had because of the programming I was taught. And so when these things started happening to me out of a meditation practice, after a few years of really developing a meditation practice, really just to be a better business owner. I had a skincare company at the time, a better mother, more productive, more healthy. Those were the reasons I began a meditation practice. My sister sent me the book, A Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, and it really helped me get on a path of productive mornings and meditation. And then things just really started opening up from there.
Was that before or after your spiritual awakening?
So that was
the celebration of the trees.
So, yep, the celebration of the trees was a result of all of this meditation that I was doing and kind of opening up my energies in a way that I did not realize I was opening up my energies. So when I was pregnant with my daughter at the age of 27, there was a huge metal craft in our backyard in the middle of the night. It was an experience that scared the living daylights out of me, to be honest, because I was still in the Mormon church and I didn't believe in these kinds of things. I had many different visionary experiences. A lot, when I was a child, I would have this gray sphere that would just haunt me because it was the smoothness and the texture of it. It was like a frequency that my human body could not comprehend. It would make my teeth hurt and it was just, there was a lot in me that just felt uncomfortable here, uncomfortable as a human, uncomfortable in this body, too cold all the time, just like very, and because of the trauma, I think that I was just keeping everything in and just trying to be a functioning human, you know.
You were loaded with different compartments of pain. That was what you were. That was what that was. So yeah. I want to ask you a couple things for those who are listening and are saying to themselves, "What the heck is a dragon? What the heck is a galactic being? What the heck is she talking about?" Can you describe how they appear to you and what they communicate to you and what they're here for with us human beings over here? And then do you want to go to the celebration? I know you that was the extraordinary vision you got that really kicked a lot off for you. So then tell us about the celebration of the trees.
Yeah, so the celebration of the trees was an experience that AJ and I had in June of 2020 during COVID. And that experience, I didn't even know what channeling was. I didn't know what shamanism was. I was not in this world. I looked completely different even. Like I was living a different life until this moment. And that moment pulled me into a state of trance channeling through the trees that were at this park we were at. We were just on a little date together because it was COVID. So we were picking
this
up
was with AJ?
And we were just at the park eating a little picnic of True Burger near our house. And all of a sudden, everything went quiet. It was a pretty windy day and the wind just stopped. And we were sitting under this tree and AJ actually noticed it first. He's like, "Did you just notice that?" It was like the energy just shifted. And all of a sudden, I was overcome with energy, like spirit energy. And eventually I was on my feet. I was sweating, crying, snot dripping down my face, just overcome with visions and energy from the trees. And this is something I had no idea could happen at all. And so it really just was like a hand grenade to our life. Like, what in the world? It forced us to really start looking at the nature of reality and who we even are and what all of this is. It really was like, so we found some documentaries, this woman, Suzanne Somard, who is connected to the science behind how the trees communicate. And that was kind of the beginning. And that led me on a path of starting to read books and open myself and learn what was happening to me. I read a book called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay, and that really started tuning me into my body. Because through all of the trauma and disease and everything that I was experiencing in my life, I had just pretty much left my body. There was so much tension, and I had to learn to re-enter and fully embody this human vessel, you know? And so then I started a much deeper shamanic meditation practice, you know, movement, sound, yoga, chanting, meditation, and really starting to deepen my practice. So I started driving to Sedona while my kids were at school. I drop my kids off at school, drive to Sedona, spend a few hours in deep meditation with the trees, and I became very familiar with these matriarchal ancient energies who held me and who helped me feel seen for the first time.
Did you get actual messages, or was it the energy of them embracing you?
So much, so many messages. And
like such as, like, give us an example.
Like, one of the first messages they taught me was, let the dead leaves fall. And it's really just a message of non-attachment and letting go and creating space for the universe to flow through you. Another one is that the trees are very happy with exactly who they are. And they know that they are the very most fruitful and helpful when they are the healthiest and happiest they can be. So that our primary lesson and goal in this life is to care for ourselves properly, to love ourselves, to accept and embrace all that we are, not trying to be like any other tree, but what is the fruit that we are meant to bring forth?
That's
and
right.
How can I be the healthiest, happiest self? And then, you know, through their root systems, they show us the interconnectedness of all things and how we nourish each other naturally, just simply in our being. You know, they have, and they just teach me to not care about so much, you know, they're just like, let it go. They laugh at the things we care about. They laugh, you know, they have these big maternal energies, and they just show me what's important and what we can just let it go.
Let it go. And please just define briefly, what is a dragon, a galactic being? If someone listening encounters one, at least they'll be able to know what they're experiencing.
Yeah. So in these car meditations in Sedona, I started opening up the first being that, well, first it was all of these like tentacles. That's what I saw first. And it was this energy of like the deep jungle. It was like this ancient, deep energy that was calling to me and saying, come with us, you're one of us. It was like, I was like this tribal there. And I was like, no, this is too intense. Like, I'm like, what? It can't possibly be good if it has tentacles, right? You know, I'm like, what are these things that I'm seeing when I'm closing my eyes? And then after a few times, and I went and I experienced ayahuasca. And at that temple, sitting there with ayahuasca, these tentacled beings made themselves known much more intensely, you know? And I didn't go with them again. I was too scared again. And as I sat in that integration circle in that temple, I told my new spiritual friends, I'm seeing these beings and with these tentacles and I'm scared. And they all said, go with them. And so I went home from that and continued my meditation practice. And I started to say yes, because these beings are very big on consent. So the dragon being so the tentacle beings were the first ones that I encountered, but those tentacle beings are also shapeshifters. And then they introduced me to their dragon energy. So there is one guide, the original guide, his name is Epert, and he first showed himself as this tentacled being, and then he taught me about dragon energy. And if you know, like even the emoji of the ancient dragon face on the iPhone, I'm sure the Android has the same emoji. It was like this vision of this ancient dragon face. And then he had a body that was like, he's made of light And it's the most vivid thing I could ever describe. When he is channeling through me, whether my eyes are open or closed, all I can see is Ebert. It is so cool because it is a full-blown channeling experience, and I am Ebert when I am channeling him. And
of course.
The first lesson that he ever showed me is that he is a protector of me. And there was this dark, he showed me this like dark, kind of a symbolic dark energy coming toward my car. I was laying in a futon in the back of my car in Sedona, and he whisked around, his whole dragon energy whisked around my car and wiped that energy out. And then in that same session, he taught me about the power of the pause. He showed me that he is in my heart center, not in my mind, and that I have to learn to quiet the mind, sink down into the heart center, and check in with that intelligence. It was a real lesson of,
how do you do that for people who are listening? For people listening, and they go, I try to meditate, I don't know what to do. Can you just like in a few sentences, how do you sync from going over here to quiet over here? How do you do that, Tobi?
Thing, and I have severe ADHD, so I get it. I mean, it's a practice every day for me to still quiet the mind, but it's a lifelong practice, and that's a beautiful thing. But I tend to tune into the body. You know, if you can quiet yourself and tune into the literal heartbeat, the literal breath, to create some awe around the fact that you are breathing, the fact that your heart is beating, and to just slow down and tune into the workings of the body. The heart center is a portal. If you can slow down enough to tune into the intelligence of your heart, you can experience many, many, many things. And it's a direct line to universal consciousness, because we all are universal consciousness, and we are all meant to be channels of the divine. You know, we can't separate ourselves from that.
Right.
Other than with programming and trauma. Those are the things that separate us from the channel.
Which you work to help people erase from their beings.
I think that where a lot of people too with meditation, because I've had that same thing where it's like, you're all over the place. And I think what's really cool about meditation is once you really get into it and start to understand it, is it correlates to life so well. We look at meditation as like, we've got to be perfect at this, and I can't think about anything else, and I have to make sure I'm completely present the whole time. And what that creates in us, just like it does in life, is shame. When we're not doing it right, when we're feeling like I should have done this better, or I can't do this the right way, then it's the shame that takes us out of being able to be present, being able to process what can come up through meditation and what we can experience. And if you can just approach it with that unattachment and no shame of, I'm just going to do my best here, and I'm going to be as present as I can.
I'm going to listen to my breath, listen to my heart.
And also notice the thoughts that come into your mind without judgment. Simply notice what happens in your mind. Create a level of awareness, that seat of the witness, you know, where you're just witnessing what goes on in your mind, you know, and that is meditation, to just notice the busyness of your mind. It's a good start.
Yeah.
It's a great start. So I want to ask you too, AJ, could you tell us how Thomas transitioned in 2023? And Tobi, how did that moment shift your understanding of life, death, and healing?
Yeah, man, that's a big question. And I think before I jump right into it, I'd like to just talk about who Thomas is. You know, Thomas is one of one. There is one Thomas. You know, I heard someone describe him recently as, no matter who was there, the coolest person in the room. And that was always true. And it's because Thomas understood innately what some of us never figure out. And for the ones that do, we're usually over 40, you know, by the time we've had all this life experience, that it does not matter. It doesn't matter what other people think. What matters is you're true to yourself, and you understand who you are, and you don't let anybody take that from you. And that created so much respect and awe and admiration for Thomas, from his siblings, from his parents, from his friends. It created adversity in his life too. It's when you're in a society and a system that kind of requires you to go with the status quo and be what everyone says you should be.
To fit in their box. Box.
If you're not fitting in their box, then you're kind of messing them up. They don't like you. They and I describe Thomas as a protector and a friend, because those were the two things I always witnessed from Thomas in his life, that he was the best example to me of. I can't think of anybody else in my life that really embodied those two qualities more. Artistic, musical, a badass, and so gentle, loving with animals. He knew, we would walk around our neighborhood and park. He knew where all the tarantulas lived. He could find one within seconds. There was one time we, lived in a different home, and Toby and Thomas were on a walk, and he said, I'm going to find a snake. And within seconds, he had a snake. He understood nature, had a reverence for it and for life, and also took no shit from anybody. He was his own person, and it was very admirable. And so, as you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, when he transitioned, it was because of a fentanyl overdose. And that was something brand new to our family and very difficult. As we talk about, what that has taught me or taught us about life and death and all of these things, you have to look at the before part too, where as this was a struggle for our family, it created a lot of dissonance and created a lot of stuff between co-parents and between kids, and there was just so much confusion, and everybody was so worried, and we're trying to help, and there was a lot that goes along with it. And what the transition of his life taught me is that we were focused on the wrong things, and that immediately it hit me. We need to love each other. We need to be there for each other in every single way. We need to give each other the benefit of the doubt. We need to understand that we are each other's best friends, and I have watched as how literally from that very day, our family has become so beautifully close and so powerfully defensive of each other, and we promote each other. We want what's best for each other. We're doing everything we can to live this life in a way now that is more intentional, that we don't take these times for granted.
I would say you're conscious and you're walking your talk.
Absolutely, yes. And so,
bottom lining it, that's right. And I would also think that Thomas must be a very mature soul, a very old soul, and is a part of a divine plan. Do you know that he was supposed to leave early to work with you now?
I believe that.
He always told me that he was going to die early, and I would always say, Thomas, do not say that. I said all the time, I would say, picture yourself as Grandpa Tom with your grandkids rolling around on the floor, because I want him to live till he's old. And he's like, Mom, I'm gonna die young. He just knew. But he did not want to die. He cried to me weeks before he passed that he was afraid to die. It was a very, very, very scary thing that Thomas was going through. But in his transition, it has been the most profound teacher that any of us could ever have imagined, this experience. There is nothing that can bring you to your knees and cause you to rethink everything like a tragedy like this. This was absolutely my worst possible fear. It is the one and only thing I thought I would never be able to survive. And, here we are. And Thomas continues to deepen our relationship with him, to teach us, just as he was a spiritual teacher to all of us on this earth. Before he passed, very shortly before he passed, he sent his dad and myself a video of Ram Dass, and it was a talk Ram Dass gave called It's All Perfect, and how the connectedness of all things, and he really wanted to leave these messages. He left music, beautiful music. He left sketches, self-portraits, beautiful art, He really is the most ancient, wise, beautiful soul, and he is still very, very much a part of our family. This necklace just the other day this necklace broke. It contains Thomas's ashes. And it was the first time I had taken it off since he passed. And I was having a very emotional reaction. I was weeping. I didn't know how to be without Thomas on my heart. And AJ reminded me that I had a replacement one with Thomas's ashes. So he put that around my neck, and the light bulbs in our bedroom became doubly or more as bright as soon as the class closed. The light in our room, I've never experienced anything like it. And we just said, Thomas, thank you. And I could feel his spirit. He is the most loving, precious angel being. I'm so thankful.
Well, it sounds like he was an angel before he left, and now he has an even bigger audience since, and he's role modeling and influencing even more people through what you're doing, which is very parallel to my experience with what I'm doing. And my husband's soul is totally here with me, and this is a divine plan, and we are moving forward. This is happening, and so many people are benefiting from it. So kind of changes your perspective. It really softens the pain a lot. So I want it right. So, all right. So how was the first time that he connected with you? Tell us about that.
I was really nervous to go into deep shamanic meditation and to really put myself into that space again after Thomas passed, because I was afraid that maybe I wouldn't be able to connect with him. I mentioned that Epert was the original dragon entity and angel being that I became familiar with. And then his counterpart her name is Jesus Kate. And she is like my twin dragon. And so she is like my best friend.
So wait, explain that, because people are listening and they're saying, what is a twin dragon?
Yes, I didn't know that until pretty recently in a session. I've always been like, who are you? What is this very distinct being that teaches me and comes and blesses my life? And AJ has had to learn to deal with another being in our marriage, really. Like, she's a lot.
We're all best friends.
But Thomas was he loved Jesus Kate before he passed away. And he fully believed in all of my experiences and everything I was learning from Jesus Kate. And so after Thomas passed, my first experience when I went into trance and went into that deep meditation, I was holding Thomas's stuffed animal, his favorite stuffed animal, on my chest. I was holding my crystals and went deep in there. And there he was. And he looked at the same form as Jesus Kate and Epert. He was a light being, and he's like, he's dancing all around, and I'm like, I mean, it was the most joyful reunion imaginable. My heart, I thought that maybe I would need to go in and just feel all the weight and the regret and the shame of all my mistakes as a mother, but there was nothing but relief. And Thomas, this was a really difficult part of being in a trance and channeling Thomas, is that he was teaching me this lesson through creating a forgetting that he passed. So he would take over my brain and body just as Jesus Kate had done for years. And she had trained me for years. I mean, these are very high vibration beings. And at first, when she started channeling through me, all I could do was flail on the bed.
I know, because it's such a high.
Oh, I mean, and
you feel it through your body.
Yes. And Jesus Kate, I didn't know that I was being prepared to hold my son's energy, which is great and powerful
and beautiful.
So he was causing me to forget that he had passed away. So I kept coming out of the meditation and saying, AJ, did Thomas pass away? Which was a very difficult thing, as you can imagine, for AJ to have to say yes, because he was in my brain and body, and he was saying, I'm right here. It doesn't matter if I died. It doesn't matter if I passed away. I'm right here. And he wanted to make that transition so fluid in my mind that he was not allowing me to comprehend his own death. This is Thomas's way.
Yeah.
And so that was, and then he proceeded to give me so much compassion. He allowed me to just lay there and weep this is so hard, Thomas. I don't know how to get through this, Thomas. And he had so much compassion for everything that all of us had been going through. And then he showed that first meeting with him, he showed me himself. It was like this rainbow bridge and him holding his hand out on the other side of that bridge, that he is the bridge for our family, for one of the bridges for all of humanity, to merge these dimensions and to realize that all of existence is in layers, that he is still here.
Well, we're going to 5D.
Yes.
And so to me, all of us are part of the tribe of light workers. And Thomas is very much a part of that, where my husband is a part of that. We're all working together and we're all raising the vibration of the planet. So I think that's a wonderful thing. And I really want to ask you, this fascinates me. How the heck did you heal yourself with all the stuff that you've been through? How did you heal from multiple sclerosis? That alone, without the other stuff, the chronic pain, the depression, anxiety, and you thought about taking your life. So how did you do this? Actually, I have two things. One thing I wanted to say from your previous comment, there was no judgment about you as a mother, which was something that you worried about also. And people need to know that when you cross over, there is not judgment at all. And right?
There's none.
I've never put that together. So thank you. That's so true.
Right? I mean, you get to experience the why and what happened and to understand from all the different perspectives, but there's no judgment there. Yeah. So, right now, how did Tobi heal herself from this overwhelming, how you're functioning with all this going on in your body, I don't understand either. Yeah. So do you want to tell us about that, Tobi?
I would love to. My God, it's been such a process. I have had days, there have literally been days where AJ, I could not get out of bed.
And AJ, you fell in love with a woman who had all these maladies, right?
Yes.
There's maladies is the wrong word. I just fell in
love.
So
much baggage.
I just fell in love with her. She was my soulmate, and I knew it from the moment I met her, and nothing else mattered.
He
what a guy.
Is the hero of this story. That's and I could never have healed without his partnership, because I needed a grounding, safe space.
I
completely understand that.
That's something we've learned, is that, we've come to a place in the world where it's all about independence and do this on your own, and men don't need women and women don't need men, or partners don't need men don't need, it doesn't have to be men and women, but you get what I'm saying. Partnership is so powerful. If you can get to healthy partnership, it is exponentially more healing and loving and beautiful in this life. But it's so hard to get to because we're all traumatized and scared.
Exactly. Well, the magic word you just said is, if we can get to healthy partnership.
Yes. Exactly. And he's a Taurus and I'm a Leo. So it was a lot to get to where we are.
Okay, so you've got layer on layer on layer on layer on layer, Tobi. How many years ago was this that you dealt with all this?
So I was diagnosed at 21 with multiple sclerosis. I had one child. They said it was severe. I had lesions on my brain and several on my spine. They said, do not have any more children, which I absolutely just didn't listen to. But yes, it was debilitating at times. It was relapsing, remitting, but it was steadily getting worse. I had a couple of unconventional surgeries that helped along the way, but there were so many days I could not get out of bed, which was very hard for me. I'm an overachiever. I'm a total perfectionist or recovering perfectionist. And so I wanted to be productive when I had chronic fatigue, chronic pain. It was horrible on my mental health. I fantasized about suicide my whole entire life, from before I can remember. I wanted to leave my body. And so I kept all of this very masked. I always looked like a very high functioning leader in my community.
But you were in pain. But how do you do that?
Crippling emotional and physical pain. And it was brutal. And so the first words the trees ever spoke to me were slow down and be quiet. Wow. And I could not sit still. First of all, sitting down, I had shame. My grandmother never sat down because she was always working, serving, working.
Well, you have to keep
I
proving
felt
your
like-
worth.
Yes. And so the first step to healing myself was slowing down and being quiet and facing what I was running from, which was all that had happened to me. All of it needed to be cried out. It needed to be expressed. It needed to be held. It needed to feel safe. It's all about healing the little girl that was still scared, who had all her defenses, all her blocks, going in one at a time and working with the triggers and having compassion for the versions of myself that abused myself and caused me to make these horrible decisions in my life and all of the things that it was really an act of learning to love myself and slowing down enough to tune into my body, to recognize, oh my God, I'm riddled with tension here. What do I need to do? I need to move my body. I need to, and it really is all about love. And that's why I say AJ was the biggest part of that for me, because we cannot heal ourselves alone. We are all connected. And that is the most beautiful part of the work I get to do now, is to hold that space that was given to me so that people can let go of their fear and face the things that have happened to them. And I get to watch the profound changes, the life energy start to come back, because healing is not about erasing, it's about remembering and really just clearing out what doesn't serve us, all of the programming,
Right, you let it go. It's about giving yourself permission to let it go. I understand that. Did you use any other healing modalities to get through all of this? I mean, I know you shifted your mindset, but were there specific healing modalities that you used to help you with some of your illnesses?
Yes, I think meditation is probably the biggest one, but also movement. These beings show me that to move the physical body is to move the trauma. Energy needs to move. It needs a place to go. Sound is a huge part of the work I do. I was just playing my sound bowls right before we came in here to talk to you. Meditation and sound and learning to feel and express my feelings, to express when I feel a trigger, to go into that trigger, to learn to have compassion, to replace the shame with compassion is a big part of that. And then medicine work is a big part of that too. I have really learned to connect. I have been pulled and drawn to the plant teachers, and they help me to connect to these higher parts of myself. They allow me to go deeper into these spaces that I've been neglecting, that I've been ashamed of, embarrassed of, and help me to unlock, all of the parts of myself that I feel were too much or needed to be suppressed,
Yeah, all that self-judgment in there.
Totally.
Yeah, the critic.
And then I've channeled the trees, but now it's when I go into a trance channeling session, the water in a jug in the room might start channeling through me. Or if we're by a river, the river might start channeling through me. I've channeled Orion standing under the stars. All of a sudden, my whole body, and it's like when you open yourself, I open myself through meditation and through kind of a prayer, and give all beings, benevolent beings of light and love who want to assist in my healing and the healing of humanity. I open myself. I give you full permission to work through me. And even still, these beings will ask me to give consent many different ways verbally before they will enter my body. But yeah, there are many modalities. And really, it's all about just figuring out where your heart leads. Jesus Kate loves to say, your passion is your purpose. If playing pickleball gets you into your body and feels good, do that. If painting or singing or moving, but it's really about tuning in to the deepest parts of ourselves and allowing everything to come up and bubble up and pop at the surface and feel free,
I was just thinking though, it must be wonderful to work with you because you're like a role model with what you've been through. And now someone comes to you and they bring, because I know you're a life coach and you do shamanic medicine work and energy work. And now they bring what is going on in their lives to you. And you've already handled that. You're like a great guide for them. And you're proof that it can work, that
what you were
transform.
talking about, Irene, is exactly accurate. Multiple people in the last few years have been helped by Tobi, and I get to be someone who watches that, who sees that take place and happen. And some of these people are in a place where they're ready and, you know, they're looking for it. And some of them really aren't, you know, some of them are more resistant, but they know they need to do something to try to help. And all of them get helped, you know, like it is so beautiful to watch through what she has experienced and just sharing what she knows and what she has learned with someone else. If someone, like she says, and the beings say this all the time, open, you know, if you're willing to open, because this world wants us to close. It's not even just that, it's that we want to close to the world because we are spiritual beings living this physical experience, and this density is heavy. There's so much here.
It's hard down here.
It's easier to have the walls, you know, and when someone opens, that's when the magic happens.
Yes.
Well, so Tobi, tell me about how you got into shamanic medicine work, the energy work, the life coaching that you do to help people. And do you have a cool story to share with us about someone who's worked with you?
Man, I have so many stories. Yeah, I got into medicine work and shamanism and the healing work and the life coaching work just very organically, because it was like I was sharing my experiences and people were like, I want what you have, you know, I want to experience this. And so it felt very natural and organic. And now it's like I just walk with these beings. I feel, you know, when they're channeling through me, I'm seeing all of these like ancient symbols and all of this stuff pouring into my body. It's like these massive downloads. And the trees the first time showed me this like spool of thread that's like in me now, and it will just get pulled out kind of as needed or something. And so it's really just been a very organic path. I started doing yoga at this place in Cave Creek and started sharing my experience. And soon enough, I was holding groups there and doing one-on-one life coaching. And now I've moved really into just doing a lot of home-based work. I'm really enjoying the consulting and the advising. But I still do, you know, one-on-one sessions as well. The Reiki and the energy work is something that I never even could have imagined possible. Like when you experience real Reiki flowing through you. And when I first started having these experiences, my hands, I could just feel so much energy in my hands, but I didn't even know what Reiki was. This was also new to me. And so that's really, I started taking a Reiki course and started kind of getting familiar with that energy. And from there, you know, I started doing medicine sessions for people, sacred medicine sessions, where I'm watching these profound healings take place in front of my eyes. And yeah, it's all just felt very natural and organic. I always wanted to be a therapist growing up, and I was going to school for therapy for a long time to be some kind of psychologist or whatnot. And now I realize that this is kind of the fullest, most authentic expression of that initial desire or intention.
Well, the therapy background makes you even more effective, I would say, because you do have that aside from the energetic understanding, you also have the emotional understanding about what happens to people, and you're able to link that together. So I would
losing a child too. It's like when you go through so much grief, it breaks your heart wide open to weep with others who are weeping. Yes. To really just be in that space, to be familiar and not afraid, to simply be in the suffering, to acknowledge it, to recognize it, to hold it so that it can be released.
Right, so it can move through you and leave. So now, AJ, it's your turn. I want to ask you, to what in the world is this Galactic Federation?
Oh, man.
What is it like to witness galactic beings working through Tobi And I also read about the Andromedan people who
Yeah.
Thomas introduced you to. So, and my last question with this part is, what were their intentions connecting with you and Toby, and how do they help you do your healing work? So let it rip. Tell us about all
Wow.
this.
Okay. Yeah. There's a lot there. You know, it's so interesting because much like Toby growing up, even though I loved the fantasy books and I had an imagination and I loved to think about, I loved magic and all of the things. I also I'm a very pragmatic, analytical mind. Like I look at problems and solve, those things. And so when this, stuff started happening, it was a shock to my system too. Like, okay, how do I integrate this? Because what I knew is this person, and I love this person with my whole heart, and I know how genuine and authentic this person is. She is not making this up. Like, I'm watching this happen, and this is real. How do I integrate that into my life? So first I had to open myself to acceptance and say, okay, I don't need to understand this to be able to accept it. I just need to know that whatever this is real. And that's when things started to escalate more. And the more I was open to understanding and to wanting to know what it was all about, the more I was able to experience through her what she was experiencing. And we experience things a little differently. She is very literally directly connected and experiencing this. And I am in the space of it. I feel the energy of it. I recognize, I can feel like what is real, I guess is the best way to say it, which is a hard thing to describe. I can feel the
You
authenticity.
sense it. You sense
Yes,
it.
absolutely. And so what will often happen is she'll be experiencing it very directly, and I'm picturing something or I'm thinking of something, and she'll say what I'm thinking of. She, becomes very telepathic, where like she's confirming to me over and over again what these things are.
Aside from how much you get from it, it's really amazing and wonderful.
Yeah, it really is.
It
And
really is.
so when she's saying the Galactic Federation is here and has a message, I'm already feeling like that's the case. And then she puts words to it, and I'm like, oh, that's what that is, And so, I'm thinking to myself, well, what is the Galactic Federation like?
Yeah.
I've heard things about them before and I've never experienced it. It seems like they would be like these benevolent beings who like want to help and are here to make sure that they're assisting us. And then she'll say those very things out loud, like as a confirmation,
Wow.
as I'm thinking about it. And so that's kind of what I've learned through, and it's been more recent, like the experiences with a Galactic Federation. Like that's something I never thought I would say.
So is it the Galactic Federation that sent you that spaceship or whatever that was that you saw in your
I believe
backyard?
so.
I do
Yeah.
think it was these galactic matriarchs. Yeah.
And I believe that there are an Andromedan race. They very powerfully, in an experience with Toby, directly, I was thinking this to myself. I'm like, they said, if you ever feel you need our support or the power of Andromeda, say it out loud. Say Andromeda. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I grew up in a religion where you had to repeat things that I didn't believe, that I was supposed to say that I did, and things like that. And I'm thinking, oh, that's difficult for me. And then I hear her say, we understand because of your upbringing, this is very difficult for you. And I'm like, okay, so
Like just basic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's what it's been and felt like. And we had an experience with Thomas and Jesus Kate that they directly expressed that they helped connect us to the Andromedan civilization, and that they want to help and that they love us and they're here to support. And
God knows we can use their help.
yes, absolutely. And,
Right?
and
God
since then,
knows.
that was really about 6 months ago.
Yeah,
And since then, and they, I've always had this fascination. You remember the orbs over New Jersey, things like that. And there've been so much of that lately. I've felt in my heart that there's something there, and it's very real, and I don't understand it and don't need to understand it yet, but that it's benevolent and it's something that's helpful. And they express that as well, that how I feel about that is accurate, and that to not let anyone else sway that belief, and that it's okay to feel that way. And it's been so confirmational just to have these experiences, because the reality is the real answer to the question is, I don't know what the Galactic Federation is exactly, and I don't know what these councils are 100%. What I feel in my heart is that they're helpful and that it's good for us, and that being open to it brings me nothing but help and happiness.
Right. Do you think they're all located in other areas in the galaxy, like other planets, other systems?
Yeah, I really do believe they are.
Well, they're probably very worried about what's going on this planet. So we're glad to welcome their help.
Yeah. And they're very communicative about, they express that they want to help and support because of that, but they also say, like, we can't change things for you. We can't do all of this.
We have choice,
You have choice, and we respect that, and that's real, but we are here to support if you call on us.
I had always heard of Andromedans, Pleiadians, Galactic Federation.
Right.
All of these things. I'm like, no, I'm like, these beings are different than that. You know, Jesus Kate is this, you know, she's an aquatic being, but she's also a dragon and a light being and it's like all of these things. But then when these Andromedans showed up, some of them are light, shape-shifting light beings, and others have huge heads and huge eyes. The matriarchs will have oftentimes these big royal, like feeling like collars and big heads. And it's like, they're like translucent, light bluish gray. And they say, like, we are your mothers, you know? And I'm like, what is happening?
What does that mean?
That they're channeling through my body, and I'm purging because I'm grabbing the trash can, and because my physical body cannot hold these vibrations without purging. I'm being trained, I'm being taught to hold them.
Amazing.
But they told me they kind of oversee the feminine energy on the Galactic Federation, and they oversee the earth. They hold space for the suffering that we're experiencing. They are, you know, in a way, like our lineage, our ancestors, us. Maybe, you know, time doesn't exist the way we think it is, but they show me that I am one of them, you know.
You've had a very rich past life experience, obviously,
yes,
in many ways.
I feel them with me right now, and they really want to, like, give you blessings and celebrate who you are and cheer you on too.
Thank you. We can certainly use their help everywhere they can bring it. Thank you. And I want to know, now you do sessions for people all over the world, right, Tobi?
Yeah.
So tell us what your sessions are like and how a person can schedule with you.
Sure. Yeah, you can just easily go to tobiblake.com, click on book now, and anywhere in the world we can connect. And it's awesome. It's different for everybody. It's all very intuitive, but basically we open it up. I hear from the person what they're dealing with. I want to know a lot. You know, our first session is always really like, tell me about yourself from the day you were born, and let's really get into it. And from there, everything opens up, you know, and it is very intuitively and divinely guided, and it is so much fun. You know, it is the passion of my heart to connect with people and help them. I love to see the difference in life energy by the time a session is over. There's an excitement, a joy, a new momentum, you know. An appreciation for the simple things, to smell the flowers, and
absolutely.
To, you know,
absolutely. I mean, we're so aligned, because this is what this is all about also.
Totally.
I love that.
About bringing people healing choices, you know, and making the earth a better place for the future and all of that. AJ, this is a favorite question of mine. I'm really into living in conscious ways, having conscious relationships. So can you teach, educate, help our listeners to understand the difference between a conscious and an unconscious relationship, and how we can each foster and enjoy conscious relationships in our lives? Which I must say that I am, after the accident, I became extremely conscious, and I was told to be loving and kind to everyone. And so it's even taught me that people I don't get along with, or people who I have bad vibes from, I don't have to take on any of that. I can detach. I can send them blessings and all that. So can you, this has been my experience, can you help us learn more from your take?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I love this question too, because I look at our relationship. I look at the last 14 years we've had together, and, you know, the first half of it I think in a lot of ways we were living an unconscious relationship together. And it's because we didn't understand trauma. We didn't understand being closed off instead of being open. We didn't really get all of that. And we went through a lot in that first half of our relationship and almost didn't make it. You know, there were times that I thought for sure we wouldn't. And it was a switch into the conscious perspective of relationships, which really comes down to intentionality, which really comes down to getting outside of yourself and being about someone else. Everybody, you know, I have so many friends, acquaintances, I have so many examples in my life of people that I see living in these unconscious relationships, and it works. It's a business partnership. It's, you know, whatever it might be, but there's not the vulnerability. There's not the openness, and there's not the willingness to give the benefit of the doubt, to say, okay, I'm seeing where I'm wrong and where I need to be different. And this doesn't have to apply to just romantic relationships. It can apply to a parent and child, a friendship, a business partnership, whatever it might be. It really is intentionality. And how can I be bettering myself every day? And how can I make sure the actions I'm making are great for the people that are around me and connected to me, in order to grow those relationships? And it's so crazy to look back and be like, I loved her so much. I knew how much I loved her, and we still weren't able to be making it work. Things were getting in the way. And like I said, trauma and all the things, it was changing the mindset to, how is she feeling loved by me? And how am I feeling loved by her? Instead of, I just love you, you know? It's doing the hard things. It's saying when you're wrong. It's acknowledging when you've made a mistake. It's celebrating being 100% happy all the time for your person's success, and not having that affect who you are. And you can also be a successful person in your own way, and they are going to celebrate that.
That's right. That's how I kind of think about it when you're faced with all the drama that people always have in their lives. I think people who live consciously are experiencing the drama and say, how am I going to handle this to everyone's highest good? Do I really want to say that particular thing that is going to trigger this and trigger that, or do I want to take a different avenue to do this? And we're right. Would you agree with that? I think that is more about what it is like to live in a conscious way, right?
I agree. And never looking for leverage. Like sometimes leverage is put on a silver platter right in front of you. Don't take it. Put it down. Like, you don't need leverage. It's not going to help you in any way. It's being completely being filled with humility all the time.
Takes the ego out.
Yeah.
I love what you said about vulnerability. I just think that a big part of our healing as a partnership was saying, the little girl in me is scared right now, or the little boy in me feels unheard. The little boy in me is terrified, you know, and to be that vulnerable, it was hard, you know, because it feels unsafe to open in that way. But these beings really showed me AJ. Jesus Kate was like, it's okay. Look at this guy. He's freaking awesome. He's amazing. And it was so scary for me to open to a man in this world.
Well, you had not had previous good experiences.
No. So I'm so thankful for his pure heart and for these beings who helped open me to him, you know?
Yeah. It was, well, AJ, you came around to help her heal, you know? And she and vice versa.
I am truly, completely honored. Like, it is my life's purpose to support her.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. And Tobi, do you have anything you'd like to say about the concept of rebirth? Because you have rebirthed your life, and this is grief and rebirth, and you've lived exactly what this is. And how do you help others begin to open themselves to lead to rebirth?
Yeah, the opening is in layers, you know? It's starting to notice your patterns, to notice your thoughts, to notice the way things make you feel, to notice the shame you feel for the feelings you feel. I think rebirth is a massive remembering. It's a coming home to yourself. It's about clearing away what was put into or on you. You know, the religious, political, gender programming, sexuality programming, you know, all of the things that we are bombarded with. We are such sensitive, highly sensitive souls, and we take all of this on, and we have to find a way to feel safe with it all. And so I think a huge part of if someone is wanting to experience a rebirth is to find support. You know, you can't do this alone. Find loving, safe support so that you can start to explore vulnerability, explore the things that you're afraid of, explore the things that trigger and make you sad, you know, and to start to feel your feelings. When you notice some emotion come up, notice that you want to shut that down, and then open to it, allow it, go find a safe space and just allow those feelings and those memories to come up and have compassion for them. And so I think when we talk about rebirth, for me, it's about recognizing that this is not one moment of, I'm born again, you know, like Christians will be like, if I just accept Jesus, I'm born again. Sure. Okay, sure. But
yeah, what about all those compartments of pain that you got all over the place?
It's really a massive compartmentalization, but really to bravely go inward and to start to peel away the layers of pain and the layers of programming is brave work. You know, we just watched this documentary of these soldiers who have severe PTSD. They went over to Afghanistan, fought so many times, and they were going to have an experience with plant medicine. Those men were not afraid to go out on the front lines, but they were terrified to feel their feelings.
Yeah.
This is the bravest work on the planet. This is the work of a warrior. To open your heart, to feel your feelings is the most manly thing you can do. It's the bravest, most courageous thing you can do.
It takes such courage to heal. I love how you say that you're not broken, you are becoming. So from each of you, could you just tell everyone listening, they've got pain, they've got this going on, they've got drama, they've got this. Why should they go through the trouble to face all that stuff and heal their lives and come to transformation and rebirth? Why should they do that? And what does this look like? Why is it important? Or as I like to say, why is it important to heal in this lifetime and not have to come back 1,000 more times to keep doing it over and over and over, right? So what would you like to say about that?
Yeah, I would say it's so hard to be on a side of it where nothing feels worth it. Like I've been there. I felt that. I know she's been there and felt like it's the pain I can see that I'm going to have to open up here and go through and do these things. It doesn't even seem like whatever's on the other side could possibly be worth going through that. And there's just a reality that that there's no more beautiful thing in this world than feeling like you are healed, feeling like you can be yourself, feeling like you have someone who understands you to your core, and to really be in a healthy partnership and have that, or to just be healthy by yourself and to have that, you have to go through those things. It's akin to, if you've, physically let yourself go and you've had a really bad eating habits and you never exercise and it's hurting your body, you don't feel good and you want that to change. It's a lot of work to get back to where that place was, that you feel good about how my body feels, good about how I'm taking care of myself. And, a lot of people can relate to that. It's like that times a million, to understand that you can work through the spiritual version of that and get to a place where you feel spiritually fit and spiritually healthy and emotionally fit and healthy. There's nothing in this world that is so freeing. Important. Yes.
So true. You're suffering either way. This life is heavy. So if you are not intentional about the struggle you choose to push through, struggle's going to find you, and it's probably going to be worse because you're living in chaos. I remember thinking so many times through, this dark night of the soul for 5 years that I went through, that I just didn't know if I was going to make it, and I didn't want to try anymore. It was just so dark in that tunnel. But being on the other side of it, yes, exactly what he's saying. You realize how worth it is, because either way you're going to be struggling, but in one way you are really coming to a space of alignment. Your nervous system is such a huge part of that. For me, feeling my nervous system calm and harmonious in my body for the first time in my life is like the most joyful thing in the world. And then at the same time, it breaks my heart for the 40 years that I was in this dysregulated body and didn't even realize that others were in a calm body, you know. But it is the most joyful experience in the world to start to feel like I am here. I am, no matter what happens around me, I can be okay. I can feel joy. And to recognize that we are multidimensional beings and that we can feel anger and grief and sadness and joy all at the same time. We are meant to experience the full orchestra of life. And we have to open ourselves to those heartbreaks and the heart-wrenching moments to really appreciate the magnitude of the beauty of this life and this creation, you know?
That's wonderful. AJ, do you want to add anything to that about joy?
Yes, I think when you really talk about joy, I think two things. I think that you have to be able to live in the present, because being outside of the present is a thief of joy. You are constant. If you're outside of the present, it's because you're worried, you're fearful, you're nervous, it's all of the things you don't want your nervous system to be, that you can't feel joy if you're feeling those things. Even if it's something positive that you're reminiscing in the past, you're longing for something instead of appreciating what's here. And to really appreciate what is in the present, you have to have unattachment. You cannot have expectation about what needs to happen in order for you to feel good. I truly believe, and I talk about this with her a lot, and I work on it every day, and I say what I want to be is happy no matter what. If I won the lottery tomorrow, or if our house burned down, I want to feel in my heart the same peace that no matter what that event was, that I'm okay, and that I'm a beautiful human being that loves other people and other people love me, and I get to experience that every day, no matter what just happened. And for me, that's how I find joy. It can be on a drive, like to work by myself, just being like, I'm so grateful that I have this job to go to, and that I leave my soulmate and get to come back to her at the end of the day. Like I'm in that moment feeling like it's good to be here on this drive, even if something happens on that drive, you have to stay unattached and just appreciate all of this experience for what it is, which is growth.
That's wonderful. That's beautiful. Thank you, AJ. Thank you, Tobi. I would like to thank both of you from my heart for sharing your light, your authenticity, and your wisdom with us today, and for reminding us in so many profound ways that even in your darkest moments, rebirth and divine connection are possible. By sharing your journey, you're inviting many others to soften their doubts, open their hearts, and step courageously onto their own path of spiritual discovery. I am so appreciative for this interview. It's been wonderful. And I want to thank you again and wish you the warmest blessings.
Thank you so
Irene.
much.
So wonderful. It's been such a pleasure talking with you.
This is actually our first time ever speaking about these things on a podcast that isn't ours. And it's been such a lovely experience. We just felt that your energy would resonate with ours, and I'm just
it has
for the work you are doing. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. I'm to know you. And just to my cherished Grief and Rebirth fans, stay tuned and we'll see you again soon. Okay, bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in to Grief and Rebirth. Remember, you can dive deeper into everything we've discussed by checking out the show notes and all past episodes at ireneweinberg.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Irene S. Weinberg on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and wherever you love to hang out online. Plus, we're on YouTube, so be sure to subscribe and never miss a video. For those of you listening, you'll find links to my 2 books, Good to the Last Drop and They Serve Bagels in Heaven, in the show notes. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see those books listed right above, so don't miss out. And here comes a special treat. If you sign up for Audible as a first-time user using my link, which you can find in the show notes, you can get They Serve Bagels in Heaven for free. And finally, People often ask me what I read, what I use, and what I recommend for healing and self-care. So I've carefully curated a compilation of those items to share with you. You can head over to kit.co/Grief and Rebirth to check them out. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, many blessings.